This is episode 3 of Dr. Rondra and Dr. Wanda. Everything about social science. But today we have a special guest, Miss Shanae Commodore, who, by the way, happens to be my BFF, and I'm so proud of her. But we met, just to tell you how we met. We met about 25 years ago in business. We are both consultants for the same company, and we struck up an instant friendship that has grown through the various stages of our lives. And though we met in one city, ultimately we both ended up moving to the same city, not at the same time. She moved here first, and then I got married and happened to move here because this is where my husband was. So now we live in the same place. And Miss Shanae Commodore is an entrepreneur. She's a mom of 2 adult children and a grandmother, a proud one at that, of 2 beautiful grandchildren. And she's also a caregiver for one of her parents. On a professional side, her expertise is in federal government contracting at her own firm, Commodore Consulting. She has delivered federal contract training and workshops virtually and in person in both the US as well as on site in other countries, which I have had too much fun seeing her pictures on a camel and an elephant and all these different places that she has actually conducted federal workshops at. So, without further ado, we are going to get started, and we're just going to make this really, really casual conversation between Dr. Rondra, myself, and Miss Shanae Commodore, but she'll be the focus of episode 3, personal peace. So, moving on to the first question, what does personal peace mean to you? Because we know it's different things for different people. Sometimes it's a mom just saying, if I can just go to, have a moment of peace and be able to go to the restroom, a bubble bath, or whatever it is, it's different for everybody. But for somebody who serves all these roles and belongs to all these people, we are intrigued at what personal peace means to you.
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. Great to be here. Appreciate that. Personal peace to me, especially wearing, so many different roles because we care about everyone that we take time to be there for. So, personal peace to me is that whatever I'm doing, whether it is for 5 minutes or an hour, wherever it is, whomever I'm with, even if it's just myself, I am able to show up fully as myself and fully present. That is such a big thing to me because um, for me, especially if I'm not fully present and I'm thinking about all the other things that I have to do or all of the other people that I'm responsible for, I'm not able to enjoy the present moment as much. And when we go through things that we realize even more the gift of presence, just actually being there, because time is so precious. So for me, it's definitely being able to show up fully as myself and truly enjoy the entire moment as who I truly am.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure those grandkids remind you when you're around them that being present is important.
Yeah, because they get excited about things that as we get older, we take for granted. And when we just fully embrace that excitement and live through that and watch it, it's a beautiful thing. It reminds us of what to be, things we shouldn't take for granted and appreciate and see the beauty and miracle of also not just life, but of God's greatness as we are evolving in life.
No doubt. What about you, Dr. Rondra? In our last episode, we talked about the many roles that you serve. How do you get personal peace?
Well, Dr. Corner, personal peace for me evolves. Right now, it just means very briefly that I'm not compromising myself or my values. Sometimes we try to keep the peace, but we're in pieces and there is no peace because we're trying to make other people happy and satisfy them, but there's no peace for us. But personal peace has its cause. I mean, if you don't have it, then you start to stress yourself out. We know that stress leads to other health issues and sickness. And so personal peace for me is just not compromising myself and my values.
That's awesome. Yeah, because health is wealth. And compromising your values and self, because a lot of times, especially as women belonging to so many people, we put ourselves last. And sometimes it's to our chagrin because it ends up causing health issues because we're so busy running around for everybody else and not slowing down for ourselves. So for me, I'm going to add myself in. Personal peace is when I am intentional about doing a couple of things. One, being quiet is what I call it, literally, just being quiet. I'm not talking, I'm not necessarily thinking. And if I am thinking, I'm thinking about something I want to think about. And then the second part of that is self care, when I literally have to announce to myself that I am taking a day for self care, whatever that means, a bubble bath. I'm washing my hair and taking my time. I'm not rushing around. Okay, question number two. How do you, and I've already answered this one, so I'm going to look to you two to answer. How do you personally achieve your definition of personal peace, Ms. Commodore?
Uh, I mean, we all just said it. For I am really intentional about a few things. One, how I start my day. So every day I make sure that I have some quiet time. Uh, I pray, I meditate, I make sure to specifically have quiet time where I'm doing nothing at all so that my brain can rest, because our brain does need to rest. And that's one thing I learned in dealing with the neurological, conditions with my mom. That's something her neurologist said. Our brains do so much automatically, we don't realize that it's working. So that's one good lesson that came out of that is I'm like, wow, I really need to rest, which means absolutely do nothing, reading, no listening or watching TV. So I make sure to do that. Um, I also make sure that where I have to be, I always do this, checks and balances thing, I like to call it. I am very protective of my space and who I am around. So I also look to make sure that it's in an environment with people that share the values and integrity that I do. So also about where I show up and who I am showing up with. And then I'm also honest with myself. If I realize that I'm uncomfortable or something like that, then I make sure to be honest with myself and dig deeper, because sometimes I really might just need to say no. And that's one thing too, I think as an adult and getting older, we get worried about something that we've already committed to. And then maybe later on, we're like, that's not something that I can do right now or that I'm genuinely interested in. And we feel bad when we can't show up. So the other thing is that I extend myself grace in changing my mind and where I want to be. But really, it gets into, how I start my day and being around people and in environments where we're sharing the same, ethical values and integrity.
Wow,
That's it.
yeah, I hear values came up twice already in this conversation. And I think as we get older with wisdom, we are able to clearly identify our values to ourselves and then be able to calibrate what does that mean in terms of who I'm around, where I spend my time, and as you said, being able to say no. And I know for me, I finally got to the point of being able to say no but then I would still feel guilty. So I like what you said about giving yourself grace to be able to change your mind or be able to say no, because when you say no and then you're still thinking about it, then that guilt is definitely not personal peace. And then you really haven't let it go. So just being able to do that is something that in my experience we are able to do with time, and sometimes we literally have to announce it to ourselves. Say no. No is a complete word, and it's okay to say no. You can't be everywhere all the time, and you have to protect your time and your space. How about you, Dr. Rondra? How do you personally achieve it?
But Dr. Corner and this comment, I think you hit it on the nail on the head. I mean, that resonates with me with saying no and feeling guilty. And I'm like, where does that guilt come from? Why do I always feel obligated to meet everyone else's needs, but not my own? So as I get older, this is our theme, because as we get older, we gain knowledge and wisdom about ourselves and others. And I have to check in with myself and I say, hey, how are you feeling? What's going on with you? What are you looking like now? How are you showing up for yourself and for others? And I have to check in with myself, and I have to be mindful. And as you both have said, intentional. Like, what am I doing and why am I doing this? What is the end result? How is this going to help me reach what I'm trying to do for myself and for others to support my goals? So I have to be very careful because we have limited time and limited resources. One thing I just started doing was using a dopamine menu, which, as Ms. Commodore says, our brain goes overtime. We don't even know that we're working so hard with our brain. But if you have a dopamine menu, it helps you find an activity without overly thinking about what do I do? I need to relax. How do I get that good feeling without mindless activities? With something that feeds and nourishes my soul. So that's how I achieve it. That's one of the ways. But for me, it evolves. So that's what I'm saying right now. But next week it may be something else. I have different ways of achieving that, and different methods, because the environment changed, times changed, so on and so forth.
Now, would you call that a dopamine?
Menu.
Where can I find an example of that?
Oh, you could just do a quick Google search. I learned about it, of course, through social media. And I love that idea. I share it with my coaching clients, and some of my family members, because you just basically pick activities that give you that dopamine rush, whatever it is, whether it's reading, whether it's going to get your nails done, whether it's exercising, and you plan it like a menu. You have your desserts, you have your main course, you have your snacks, you have the things that you would pick. And okay, I only have an hour, so then maybe I'll have a light snack. And my light snack may be going to exercise or getting my nails done or taking a walk on the beach. But whatever gives me that dopamine rush to help.
Hello?
It's a couple of things. Uh, I I read the room, as they say, because sometimes people don't realize that they are disrespecting a boundary. I mean, we have all different kinds of personality types, and sometimes people really don't know. So I will usually, sometimes I actually have to say something to the effect of, that's not something that, depending on what it is, if they want me to share, that's not something that I discuss, or etc., in a polite way without going overboard, because tone is everything. If it is a situation where I notice that they really just intentionally do that, and that's just who that person may be, I just am not around that person. I One thing that, even though I'm kind of shy, I'm, I guess, introvert extrovert, I am very good at the gift of goodbye. So I can be respectful, but I'm not going to be around you, or I will not, engage in conversation. So I am really also very intentional about protecting my space, because I've worked hard to be who I am, and learn some things and be respectful, and have a certain level of emotional intelligence. And physical and mental health is just as important as physical health. So I this is an area that I am very intentional about, and I stay very aware about. So if someone doesn't respect my boundaries, one, I let them know, depending on what's happened. I don't say you didn't respect my boundaries. I just say I don't like when you do this, or can we do this a different way? So it really depends. And then I make sure that I'm honest. I have to be honest with myself too, when I'm uncomfortable. That was something else that was, kind of gets into an obstacle before in this space is getting out of people pleasing. Because a lot of times when we're caregivers and we're so concerned about caring for other people and showing up, um, not only do we tend to put ourselves last, we get into this whole people pleasing thing where we may not be as honest about our own needs. So I just, I try to stay aware of that, meaning that if I notice that I'm physically uncomfortable or something starts to happen in my nervous system, I use that as information that there may be some kind of boundary or something that's being violated that I need to address.
That's good. Yeah, because sometimes you do need to point it out real time, because if you don't, then the person will say, whether intentional or not, I don't know what you're talking about. And then other times you decide, you know what, I'm not even going to announce it. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do and not do whatever I'm not going to do. Yeah. How about you, Dr. Rondra? What happens when others don't respect your own boundaries, or you yourself don't respect your own boundaries?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. My technology today. I think for me, when somebody violates those boundaries and they continually excuse me, I can't speak. They continually violate those boundaries. I think there has to be a separation. If you cannot come to a medium where I need you to respect these boundaries, then I need to leave the relationship or the situation, or make myself unavailable to that person. Because if I'm feeling some kind of way and we've talked about it and you just flat out refuse to respect me, then I don't need to be in your presence. I mean, the cost is too high. The cost of my self respect, my physical well being, and my emotional boundaries, the cost is too high. Then I just have to remove myself from the situation before it begins to cost me too much. Because it's for my daughter. I have a daughter and I'm her first line of defense. So I have to make sure that I'm well and I'm well positioned. But that involves me sometimes separating myself from relationships.
Yeah, that's that. I think in for that particular question, I like both of those tools that you have. If you are an impulsive person like me, and you're honest about that characteristic, then for me, I actually have to take a step back and be quiet and think about how I'm going to handle it. And this is after I see a pattern of behavior, to your point, when you said you've already told them or whatever. So by the time when I say something to you, because I'm seeing you're not respecting me, it's a pattern of behavior. Because there are times where individuals will say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so let me give you, and my rule is 3. That's a pattern. So, okay, so you did this, and I talked to you, and you did that, and we talked, and then the third time, and so I'm not understanding what's going on. And while I cannot read your mind, this is what it looks like, and this is how I feel when you do A, B, and C. So it's not, it's more about me, but I'm talking about their behavior, and that's something that I had to learn, because I can be impulsive. On the other hand, and if I need to apologize, I'm apologize. But when it comes to my personal peace, if I see a pattern of behavior where I have clearly articulated it to you, because everybody's different, maybe they didn't see it that way. Maybe somebody else in the same situation. But I know for my own self, one thing I do know is myself, my strengths and my weaknesses. And being a person who used to volunteer, who my days were long. I mean, work a whole long day with my business and then do community activism to the point, and then helping people as a caregiver to the point of physical exhaustion did not make any sense anymore. So I had to figure out how to take a step back and to be able to articulate to that individual about their behavior. I'm not telling you what you're thinking in your heart. Maybe you don't mean anything by it. I'm just telling you this is what I've seen, and I've articulated it to you a few times, and I see a pattern of behavior that you're not respecting my boundaries, or maybe even my own self. I don't know, but when it comes to somebody else, and so they can decide, and we can have a conversation about it. Because if I don't do it like that, if I do it in a heat of just being exhausted or upset, then I may communicate something to them in a way that they don't receive it in the way I meant it. So I for me, because like I said, I can be a little impulsive, I have to take a step back. Now this came with age and wisdom, because that's not the way it was when I was younger. So yeah, all of these are great things to think about. So Miss Shanae, back to you. If you had to think about your life since you started your professional career, and that was at
Mhm.
20 something, all the way fast forward to becoming a mommy and yeah, caregiver and a grandmother and all of that, what's the one thing that
Mm.
you would, and this is my pop question, what's the one thing,
Yeah, I was gonna say one
the
thing. Okay.
one thing that you would recommend for other young women, it could be men too, young professionals coming along that belong to a lot of people, because we now know that there's multi-generational households and a whole bunch of other stuff now, male or female. What's the one thing that you would share as a piece of wisdom?
Ooh, okay. One main thing, because we all know there's several,
Yeah.
and I know Dr. Rondra has something great as well. One main thing for me is that your identity is everything. Meaning, no matter don't get caught up on titles. You are the leader of your own, the CEO of your own life. But even greater than that, um, focus on God and your identity, and not on necessarily what looks good at a particular time. Because when things start going really fast, especially in times like are now, where there's so many distractions, so much information and chaos, we can get lost and we can get overwhelmed. And if we remember our why and focus on what we believe that uh, God has our purpose for, and stay aligned with that value, we will be able to push through all of the other stuff. Whether it's changing and evolving relationships, or changing and evolving careers, or all those different things, to just stay anchored in our faith, and what we know to be true about ourselves. Because what may happen to you in one specific point of time does not change who you are. It's just that one moment in time out of an entire life. So don't get caught up on that, because first doesn't mean only, first doesn't mean last, and first doesn't mean best. And we serve an abundant God. So focus on that abundance and that faith in who God says we are.
Well, you said a mouthful there. Abundance mentality and having God in your life and identity. Don't think identity, identity is everything. And who you identify as, that's something you have to do some soul searching with. And that can change as you get older. You learn more and more and more. So if that's that one thing you want to share, that's pretty important. Who am I? Why? What's my why for what I'm doing in my life, even if that changes over time, because nobody stays exactly the same. How about you, Dr. Rondra? What's the
Well,
one thing you would share all your experience with a young professional coming along in this climate?
oh my goodness. I mean, there are so many lessons that you learn as you evolve and you grow and you stretch. I don't know if it's just one thing, but I think you should always just, like Miss Commodore said, be yourself. Don't compromise. Don't worry about the money. It'll come. Don't compare yourself to others. Just run your own race and seek God for answers and your trusted friends and family.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I mean, we just have to stay grounded because a lot of times we get, like you said, we worry about titles and positions, but you always have to remember one thing is to stay kind to people, to treat everybody the same, not just somebody who can help you, not just people you feel like, oh, they can help my career. I mean, everybody should be treated with a measure of respect because that's how you would want to be treated. And remember, that what we sow, we reap. And we're not just alone in the world, we have our family and friends. So my biggest thing is don't compromise and don't try to fit in.
Mhm. And I want to overlap on some of that from both Dr. Rondra and Miss Shanae in that, don't compare yourself to anyone else. I even say that to my dissertation students. Don't look left or look right. Just keep running the race because everybody's race is different. And just focus on your why and and definitely abundance mentality. And the one thing I would say to young people, because it hurts my heart when I see them check out early, is if you would just hang in there, I promise you it gets better. It really does if you just keep going and add those other things, and God at the top, abundance mentality, having that faith and all of that. I promise you it will get better if you just hang in there and keep going. And so as we wrap up episode 3 on personal peace, we've heard all kinds of recurring themes, as I would best call them. And that's the importance of prayer and faith and meditation, self reflection, knowing who you are, knowing what your why is, making sure that you're taking care of self and that you're protecting your time, your energy, your environment, your space. All of these things can pour into creating a life of personal peace. And the definition of personal peace will change as you change. But the important thing is to stay anchored in being intentional about your personal peace. Would either one of my other 2 co hosts like to add anything to this outro that I just did? Dr. Rondra.
Dr. Corner, I think you summed it up perfectly. I think that, as you said, as we get older, we learn, we grow, we mature, we understand ourselves better, we understand others. And I think personal peace is continually evolving. It may mean one thing today, and tomorrow may mean something completely different depending on your circumstances, environment, and what you're doing at that particular moment. But I say thank you for hosting this today because this is great. I know it's going to help a lot of people get closer to their personal peace.
Thank you. Miss Commodore, you have any closing words?
Thank you. I think this was great. It was even inspirational for me. So thank you both. And I agree with everything we said. We all said. I think that's why there were so many recurring themes. And just always believe in yourself, no matter what it looks like. And I love how she brought up, don't compare yourself because that, you know, don't continue. I think that goes a step further and it says, don't continue to move the goalpost. Remember who you are and your purpose. And like you said, run your own race and it'll work out. But yeah, thank you so much for this.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody today, and I hope you have a wonderful upcoming week. Why? Because you choose to. And for our audience, we look forward to episode 4. Stay tuned. Have a great day.
You too.